Hello, my name is Jim Sandquist, and I'm here with Aerotech Models. This is my 4th year I've been associated with Aerotech as a pilot for them. For those of you unfamiliar with the line of models from Aerotech, they really are a high-tech kit for the discriminating modeler. The kits are a highly prefabricated kit, all constructed of carbon fiber, but the detail that you see in these airplanes really is incredible. On the P-47, things such as 20,000 scale rivets and all the panel lines come pre-molded into the structure. Scale Fowler flap mechanisms, which are exact miniature replicas of what's in the full-size P-47. Even some of the best model kits on the market don't include the details that you can get in this kit, allowing you to make a very competition-worthy airplane in a very short time. I've been flying these airplanes now for over a year, both in the expert and in the team events for the Masters, the Nats, and Top Gun. And frankly, the P-47 is one of the best flying airplanes I've ever seen. It flies right where you point it. It lands straight forward. It really is not a difficult airplane to fly at all for a Warbird. For your first Warbird, it would be an excellent choice, and I would suggest if you've got any interest in a fine-scale Warbird, give us a call at Aerotech.
For more information, please visit our website at www.aerotechmodels.com. Email us at aerotech@wavetech.net or call us at 612-721-1285. Aerotech Models, when compromise is not an option.
Hi, I'm Frank Chiano, and welcome to Prop Wash Video's rendition of Top Gun 2000, where you're going to see 66 of the world's most incredible airplanes, 66 of the world's most incredible pilots, and 12 demos at the noontime half show going to knock your socks off. Top Gun 2000 right here at Palm Beach Polo in West Palm Beach, Florida. Prop Wash Video's got it right here. We've searched the United States from coast to coast, top to bottom, and we simply cannot find a better flying site for Top Gun than the Palm Beach Polo Stadium in Wellington, Florida. Wellington is a quiet community. It sits near the southwestern border of Palm Beach County, and once a year, the last week of April, it really comes alive. It came alive again this year with the help of the Palm Beach Polo Ground maintenance crew, Sal Spano, the director of the events, and lots of help from area modeling clubs, specifically and primarily the Palm Beach Aero Club, who's been with us for 10 years, and the Palm Beach Skyhawks, with us for 2 years now. It takes quite an effort to make the facility ready for several thousand spectators, but even more time and labor is spent to make the 3/8-inch tall grass field so perfect as possible for this year's 56 pilots. And we must give a lot of thanks, of course, to our famous golden-voiced announcer, Mr. Sam Wright, all the way from California, sat with us for 4 days to keep 15,000 spectators informed and entertained about this great sport of model aviation. Top Gun starts this week on Tuesday. We advertise it starting on Wednesday, but we really start on Tuesday. Tuesday is reserved for our tent placements, vendor setup area, and general field get ready, like putting up the banners of our various sponsors, making sure that the chalk lines are laid out properly, making sure the PA system works. We don't start test flying, or practice flying, I should say, until Wednesday. On Wednesday, static judging starts and continues to Friday lunchtime. Practice flying is welcomed all 3 days, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And Palm Beach Polo no longer allows test flying on its property. Starting next year, each airplane that shows up at Top Gun will have to have 6 test flights under its belt before competing. And if it's a new airplane, it will have to have the pilot will have to have a signed document stating that someone else has witnessed these 6 test flights. Yes, it's a pain in the neck, but we must do this to ensure safety. So no more test flying, only practice flying starting at 2001. 2 rounds of competition flying are on Saturday and Sunday. And of course, the 3 days previous are static judging, practice flying, getting to know each other, checking out the vendor's tent, just having a good time, relaxing. But the real key goosebumps start Saturday morning, 9 o'clock. Top Gun is really an unusual modeling event. The venue itself, of course, is incredible. There's a full food court at Palm Beach Polo. There's tables and chairs to sit at. There's a full bar if somebody wanted a cocktail during the afternoon. Non-competitors, of course. We're talking about if your wife wants to have a pina colada or something like that, or your dad wants to have a beer. The stadium seats thousands of people. There are huge, clean restrooms. The air-conditioned tent is 90 by 180 feet. It houses 60-plus model airplane vendors or manufacturers. This is one airplane you will not find from one of those manufacturers, however. This Piper Tri-Pacer is an unusual model. It's the first time, in fact, in 12 years that Top Gun has had a Piper Tri-Pacer in its fold. You've heard of Pilots by Diane, no doubt. Well, this Tri-Pacer is entered by Diane's husband, John. That's John Chevalier, part-time Floridian, part-time Canadian citizen, and the Tri-Pacer is a work of art. John is now a retired station master who enjoys his hobby full-time. The model was built from Bill Eppinger plans to 1/3 scale. This produces, by the way, a 120-inch model, that's wingspan, of course, weighing 39 pounds, and a 3W60. That's the new rear carbureted version. Turns a Clark 24x8 prop for a realistic performance. John is a very good builder. His static score for this big Piper was 94.33. Final score, 183.7, placing him in 7th place in the expert class. And from what I can remember, this man is usually in the top 10 and usually wins some other awards as well. You might remember in the past his beautiful Ryans. Flight characteristics seem to be somewhat wobbly or unstable left to right in pitch, you know. But remember, the real airplane was kind of close coupled, so possibly the model is following suit. Pilots at Top Gun tell me that, especially the new ones, of course, that when they first come upon this field that John is flying this Piper around, they get a feeling within themselves. It's almost like getting chills at a scary movie. It's like you're so proud to be part of this event at this venue. This field is just awesome. And of course, we cannot go any further yet without thanking publicly all of the sponsors for Top Gun, and that the major ones, Model Airplane News and Zap, of course, from Pacer Technology. Couldn't have done it without them. Realistic taxi back. Very nice airplane. There's John and Diane, member of the Zap gang. There were 2 yellow aircraft Spitfires at Top Gun this year. One built and flown by Gary Bussell and one by Al Kretz. This is Gary's airplane. It's a 88-inch wingspan version, weighs 24 pounds, and uses the popular Zenoa G38 for power. Gary chose an unusual prop size for this model. Most G38s, as you know, or probably know, use an 18.8 on a fighter-type airplane, maybe a 26 on a high-wing airplane. But this one uses a 26 on a fighter. Why? Well, it's very simple. He gets more vertical pull and less forward speed, which makes the airplane fly very realistically. He's an engineer from Muncie, Indiana. and he finished 13th in the expert class, starting off with a static score of 92.67, and his average flights were in the high 80s, so he did pretty well. I think this is his third time. There's Gary flying. Good-looking airplane in the air, I think. Nice two-wheel landing. By the way, the videotape doesn't always have the luxury of showing you the best takeoffs and landings. Sometimes, you know, we show average ones or poor scoring ones, but that's what we happen to get for the day. And we got this for the day. This detail, the detail, I should say, on this team scale entry is about as fine as you're going to see anywhere. Let's take our time and look this over. This airplane was constructed by Ed Burton, flown by his good friend Bill McCallie. It's, of course, a Japanese Zero. It's a blow-up of a Dave Platt design. Ed took a set of Dave Platt plans and blew them up and made his own cowl and canopy and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And this is the final product. Great-looking airplane. And Bill McCallie flies it well. The blow-up produces an airplane of 100 inches. This airplane took first place at the 1999 Top Gun in team scale. That's a slow flyby there, by the way. And for 2000, Ed received a 95.5 static score, and of course gave that to Bill McCallie to say, here's a score for you, pal, let's go fly. And Bill went on to average a 94 flight score, placing them in the position of the team to beat. And even though, by the way, this is very important, I guess, even though this airplane was designed to 100 inches, the model is 92 inches because, as you can tell, Ed chose to do the clipped wing version. So first you blow the airplane up to 100 inches, then you clip the wing, and you're back down to 90. 3W 70cc engine for power, 2212 prop. First place in team scale for 2000 once again. Congratulations, guys. Well, that's a cute little clown in front of that P-51, that little monkey waving the flag, isn't it? This would be the another team scale entry, of course. Well, no, of course, you don't know that. This would be another team scale entry. This airplane has been a Top Gun for 2 years in a row. Very well done. It's a P-51 built by Bill Spivak, owner of Bob Dively Models, and is flown by past Top Gun winner Dean DiGiorgio. The Mustang was built from Bill from a Fiber Classics kit. It's a large airplane spanning 102 inches and weighing 36 pounds. Another 3W engine powers this one, an 80R2 inline twin cylinder, which has an incredible sound, and Bill made a magnificent exhaust system for this airplane. It is so quiet and realistic, you can't imagine. And of course, Dean, I call him the kid. The kid flies this airplane like an airplane supposed to be flown, a World War II model supposed to be flown. Very, very realistically. There are a few guys at Top Gun that do that, and Dean DiGiorgio is one of them. Greg Hahn is another, of course. But anyway, just watch this airplane. It's just fabulous flying airplane. Mr. Dave Platt awarded a trophy and cash this year to the people who had the highest static and team scale, and these guys won it at 96.08. However, even Dean's fabulous flying with 94 plus average flights couldn't quite master the wind. Final score was 189.58, just 1.04 points behind the big Zero, or HAMP as it's called, from Burton and McCallie. So this was your second place winner in team scale this year, this big P-51. Some more sponsors to thank while we have a second here. How about very much thanks to Airtronics, Futaba, ProMark Markings. How about the Aeroplane Works, Barbie Jewelry, Cool Pins, Hobbyco, JR Radio, Pan American, Ron Norris, and others, which I'll mention later.
This is Joe DeNicola, and first of all, I'll ask you, Joe, where are you from?
I'm from Tampa Bay area.
And how many Top Guns have you been in this far?
This was number 7.
So you just missed the first 4.
Yes, I did.
Wow. And I think we've seen you fly with the Spitfire right before, and anything else besides the one in front of us?
I have. I've come here with the Spitfires on numerous occasions, and I had a P-38 that had a catastrophic engine failure and lost it here even before the contest began.
Oh yeah, I remember that pile.
Yeah, oh yeah. And of course now this is the 2nd year with the Skyraider, and I'm going to stay with this guy. In fact, I got another one under construction right now. It's going to be a Corsair Blue for next year.
Okay, well, tell us about the Skyraider. It's big.
This is a 100-inch Zeroli design. I had the kit cut from Chuck Gill, and this guy weighs 44 pounds. It's got a 3W 4.2 gasoline engine in it. It's an excellent flying airplane. This airplane is an airplane that I highly recommend to anybody who has the skill and the wherewithal to build something like this, because this guy does not have any bad characteristics. It flies beautiful, affectionately called a flying truck. The full scale carried more ordnance than the B-17, and this guy could lift its own weight in ordnance, which is something like 7,000 pounds of bombs, rockets, whatever. And with all the ordnance on the bottom of this wing, it doesn't know it's there, because it flies just the same with it and without it. So it's a wonderful airplane.
Well, Joe, a little bit about the construction. Is it conventional? Is it glass?
Now, this is an all-wood airplane. It's fuselage. Everything on it is wood except for that fiberglass cowl. And it is not that difficult to build. It's a lot of work. Yes, it's a lot of work. But it's very straightforward, and you just start gluing pieces together, and before you know it, you got it.
Well, Joe, it's a beautiful airplane, and best of luck to you in the rest of the contest.
Joe Denicola is a retired New York City detective. He's a great modeler and a great human being. We all love Joe Denicola. You couldn't ask for a nicer guy. What's really cool about Joe is he brings his wife Barbara to all these events, and she hangs out there with him and helps clean the airplane and keeps his Coca-Cola cold, and just a great modeling duo. And this year he switched over to Futaba radio, and a 3W engine happens to be his engine of choice for the Skyraider. He does fly the airplane well. He's had 2 or 3 of them, and he keeps refining them over and over. This one here is a 60cc rear carbureted 3W swinging a 2212 prop. And it flies great with all that ordnance. In fact, you know, there's an old wives' tale that you put all this ordnance on the bottom of the wing of the airplane, it's going to hurt how it flies, and we sometimes forget, unless I'm mistaken, of course, and I'll apologize ahead of time if I am, but I believe the lift in an airplane comes from the top surface of the wing, so really that stuff on the bottom doesn't harm the way the airplane flies. It may harm it as far as drag, but certainly not in lift. There's Joe's landing, full flaps. Nice job, Joe. 21st in expert this year, building an all-new one for next year. Speaking of next year, April, the last week of April, 25th through the 29th will be 2001. The dates for Top Gun 2001 back at Palm Beach Polo, even though we thought it would not be, it will be. And this airplane might be back as well. This is Tom Krzyzewski's Fokker EV, or E5. I don't know which one it really is. No, it won't be back. Actually, it's the 3rd year for the airplane, and we have a 3-year rule. So Tommy will have to bring something new. But this airplane got a terrific 94.58 static score in designer. But the darn mechanical gremlins, and there aren't many of them in a 4-channel airplane, but something kept this airplane from doing any better than 14th place. We don't know what happened. We know it's a highly detailed airplane. It's about flawless. It's quarter scale with 84 inches. It weighs 22 pounds and uses a Quadra 35 for power and Airtronics radio. Now, here's an airplane that did very well at Top Gun. There were 2 F4s entered this year, both from Bob Violet model kits. Tommy Wood built and flew this one, and he flew it to 3rd place in the expert class, only 2 points out of 1st place in his 3rd Top Gun ever. This is a 26-pound airplane, and it uses the new Ram 1000 turbine with a bifurcated duct for power. Top Gun rules changed for 2000, allowing single engines and a dual engine airplane with certain stipulations, and this airplane does apply, meaning you can't tell from the outside there's only one engine in this airplane. It looks like a twin engine airplane. Remember, by the way, that all aircraft at Top Gun are checked, or judged, I should say, for craftsmanship from 0 feet. So all those hatches and bumps and panels and seams that you saw before must be done perfectly if you want a good static score. All of the judges that have seen this F4 agreed one thing. It's static at 96.5 points because it was worth it. It was the second highest in the expert class. And Tommy's F4 also received the AMT award, the sponsored award for the best jet. So Tom did pretty well. Some more sponsors here coming up for Top Gun this year. We left off at Warehouse Hobbies, Wildcat Fuel, Yellow Aircraft, and we'll get some more of them later. Here's an unusual airplane for Top Gun. Bud Rohn, a Floridian, wanted to try his hand at something other than the World War I fighters that we've come to know him for. This is called the Shoestring. It's a model of a Goodyear Formula One racer, or maybe a Goodyear racer, from 50 years ago or so. Bob designed the model to 85 inches of wingspan and only 16 pounds, so a Sato 180, turning an APC 16.8 prop, flies it perfectly. Static score was not up to Bud's normal level, only 91.17 in the designer class, placing the Shoestring 10th in static, but this guy's consistent flying not only won him 6th place, but he got a brand new Sato 150, of course they wouldn't give him a used one, for the best 4-stroke performance award from Horizon Hobby and Sato Engines. When you fly a racer, you're sort of limited to what maneuvers you can do. Of course, aerobatics is about it, and maybe a race course pattern. Not much more. Since there's no mechanical options available to you, sometimes you'll do a touch and go, like this one. See, you can see the exhaust smoke coming out where he powered up and off he goes. Now that would have been downgraded as a touch and go because it wasn't smooth, but Bud does fly usually better than that. In fact, obviously he did because he got 6th place in designer. You'll also notice in some cases an airplane is landing in one direction or taking off in a different direction, and that's simply because we have different flights throughout the weekend strung together. I mean, the wind didn't change every 5 minutes. Perfect landing.
Oh, absolutely.
Not much on this airplane, unfortunately. I don't know why. This is the 3rd place designer class winner and entry by Ramon Torres out of Miramar, Florida. He produces this kit. RT Aerospace produces the kit, if you like. 5th scale, 80 inches. Ray uses a YS-140 for power, a great performing model. It's not easy to do all those corrugations, I want to tell you, but his kit gives you a lot of the material to be able to do them. And that's what adds a lot of realism to this airplane. This, of course, the turbo engine version of the T-34, whereas Mark Frankel's, as you know, is the conventional engine version. Good looking airplane. Nice landing as well. We call the builder of this F-86 a spoiled brat. And of course, we say that affectionately. You may know him as Gustavo Campagna from Argentina. The F-86 is done in an aerobatic air show color scheme, and it really shows up on a sunny day. Built from a fiberglass kit, it uses ROM landing gear and Futaba radio equipment, and of course a Ram 750 for power. Unfortunately, it's placed in the bottom of the pack in static and prevented him from doing any better than 14th place in the expert class, but this is an improved pilot. This guy is dedicated to this sport, and I think you'll see him get better and better and better every year. All was not lost, by the way, with Gustavo. these wild girls of Top Gun, we call them the Top Gun Hussies, they awarded Gus the coveted Best Buns Award and $100 in cash, which he received at the Saturday night banquet. So his airplane went home in one piece, and he went home with $100 in his pocket. Congratulations, Gustavo Campagna, all the way from Argentina. There's Gus. Colors show up very, very well. A little off the mark on the landing, but a good-looking airplane.
Yeah, my name's Ransom Fairchild. Been demoing Patty Wagstaff's Extra 260 that she originally flew. And we got about a 4-minute routine with it. The airplane flies beautiful. I've flown 260s for the last 5 years in the Masters. And I'd like to introduce George Spalding. He's the builder and designer of it.
My name is George Spalding. I'm from Tampa, Florida. And this is an aircraft that I've been building for the past 3 years. It's an all-composite Kevlar and carbon fiber. It's 100% scale with the exception of the airfoil. It's 48.5% in size. The full-scale version of this airplane is retired now, and it's sitting in the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum. It's the first airplane you see when you walk in the door. And the only deviation from true scale is the airfoil. The airfoil design is the Epler 169, and it has a hand-built, one-of-a-kind engine, 2-cylinder, 22 horsepower. It uses Husqvarna cylinders and pistons. It puts out about 22 horsepower. And it has a smoke system, has a 36-inch carbon fiber prop, originally designed for ultralight use, but it happened to be just the right size for this aircraft. And in a few minutes here, Ransom's going to put on a great show.
Well, we look forward to it.
I'll tell you, only the absence of a pilot figure and a working smoke system keeps this almost 50% extra from appearing absolutely full size. I do not think on film you can tell the difference. Ransom Fairchild's a great pilot, and he did a great job of entertaining the Top Gun crowds for 4 days. Redundancy is the key word, by the way, for this beautifully expensive model. 2 receivers, 4 battery packs, multiple servos for each control surface, onboard telemetry for the engine, engine RPMs and cylinder head temperature. You name it, there's a backup system for a backup system, but no backup system, of course, for Ransom himself, but didn't need one, of course. He flies it that well. It's a pure joy to watch, as you can tell from the crowd's reaction at the end of the demo. Look for that. It really is unbelievable. These people actually cheered, as they did for many of the aerobatic pilots. And by the way, this airplane was not in competition. This airplane was part of our halftime or noontime demonstration program, where we bring together about 12 different modelers from all over the country, all over the world, to put on demonstrations for the huge crowd at Top Gun. And this does many things. One, besides entertaining, it shows them what our sport is really like, so they don't leave, or they do leave, I should say, with a new respect for our sport, whereas they may have come in thinking we're a bunch of guys making ourselves dizzy going round and round with an airplane at the end of a string. They realize how involved and how fulfilling this hobby can be. Plus, they go home and they tell their friends, hey, you got to go over to Palm Beach Polo and see what's going on over there. And if we can just turn, a couple of kids into this hobby every time they see something like this, our hobby will continue to grow. And that's something we're very alarmed about, very concerned about, is that there are very few young people coming into the sport of model aviation any longer. There are just so many other things to do. And, of course, when we were kids, model aviation was everything. They even had it in clubs in school, no more. So demonstrations like this, and ones from Chip Hyde and Jason Schulman, all help show how exciting the sport of model aviation can be. And of course, the sponsors, especially Model Airplane News and Zap, go a long way. Those being the two key sponsors to promoting this sport by giving a lot of things away. Model Airplane News gave away about, I don't know, 100 subscriptions to their magazine, probably 4 dozen T-shirts, maybe a few dozen hats. The same thing with Herschel Worthy at Zap, came up with a hat for all the pilots, some hats for the people in the stands, T-shirts, everything to promote not only their company, of course, but aero modeling. And when you promote your own company and people look into your company, they see that you are in aero modeling, and that's the end result that we're looking for. Now that would be a wing over knife edge, I guess. So a knife edge wing over, I guess you'd call that. Incredible maneuver. Ransom Fairchild, by the way, is a full-scale, well, of course he'd be full-scale. He is an airline pilot. I don't think you could fly a miniature scale airline. Although Pat McCurry's coming out with a line of airliner kits that are quite awesome. By the way, I just, before coming into the studio today, I looked at his new Lockheed, is it, L1011? A single engine, it's a 3-engine airliner powered by 1 turbine in the back. It's like a trainer. Wait till you see this airplane, guys. Should be available probably by the time this tape is out or close to it. If you need some more information, give Pat a call at 561-793-6850. If you're looking for an airliner, huge, lightweight, fabulous airliner with common everyday parts. This extra, however, is not common every day. They are building another one as we speak, by the way, because this airplane was lost at a demonstration in Tampa, Florida, back in June of the year 2000. For some reason, this highly developed experimental twin-cylinder engine decided to drop a cylinder, and the airplane didn't have enough power to make it back, and it went into a woodsy situation and was pretty much destroyed. So now they have opted for the new 3W, I think it's a 200cc twin. And of course, you know, 3W engines run from now on. They just don't quit. And that's what the next Extra 300 will have for next year at Top Gun. All those balloons are launched at his demonstration's end, which is kind of a cool thing, red, white, and blue balloons. The maneuvers are all done to music. Just a great performance. Very classy. Here's a hover with a little bit of a twist, tail slide over. Look at that. And if you could be there in person and see the size of this airplane, you would really be impressed. Excellent flying by Ransom Fairchild. Ransom Fairchild, I should say. Now I'm going to guess that he'll be coming around for his landing any minute now. Not converted, but maybe after this 4-point roll. Let's see. Yes, I guess so. Very, very nice. Now, listen to this. There he is. Top Gun incorporates a 3-year rule that helps keep fresh new models coming to the judging arena. And the only way to bring a model back after it has competed 3 times is to either change the color scheme entirely, so you look like it looks like a whole new airplane, or to alter the design. Now, David Hayes from North Carolina chose the redesign method. He took his radial engine thrush from years ago, and he modified the whole airplane, constructed a whole new nose, cockpit area, etc., and turned it into a turbo prop thrush, and winds up with a new airplane for 3 years if he chooses to do so. This is the designer class, of course. David's flight routine features a lot of prototypical crop dusting maneuvers, including laying down a coat of fertilizer on the Top Gun runway. Kind of cool. Plus, the airplane is aerobatic, so he does a lot of swooping maneuvers and what have you. But very realistic looking. I mean, you may not like crop dusters, but it is realistic looking. There you go. There he's starting his spray job. By trade, David is a wind tunnel model builder, and he designed this model at 1/7 scale with an 83-inch wingspan. He uses one of those unusual RCV 120 engines for power, which, by the way, seems more than adequate to haul the Thrush's 15 pounds. And how did David do? How about 10th place in designer class? 91 static points and a 174.88 total. I don't know if that can be improved upon because I don't know what was wrong with the static. He usually statics are in the 94, 95 area. So you give this guy 3 more static points and you'll see a much better placing, I'm sure. You can see the wind play havoc with that lightly loaded airplane. Full flaps.
My name is Sam Snyder, and I'm a team member with Tom Dodgen, who is the pilot, and I was the builder of this Mig-15 BIS, which was an aircraft of the 1950 Korean War. The airplane has a number of nuances on it that you don't ordinarily see. For example, there are no hatch latches that are exposed. So the way in which you get into the airplane is, this was the hydraulic fill valve on the real airplane. And so you turn that and lift this up, and I need someone to hold this. Okay? Yeah. And so you lift that up and then that just slides out. And if you look underneath, you can see the mechanical operation of the way in which the hatch latches work. And then the inside of the aircraft is finished with the ribbing and the lightning holes and so on. Now, by opening that, the front hatch latch to the engine operative compartment is then able to also not have hatch latches, and it's also finished. And then this is all your controls to start up and run the engine, run the jet. In addition to that, the canopy on the real airplane was mechanical. And so the latch to hold that so it doesn't come open in flight is then accessible to that. The swift disconnect for the hydraulic system actually operates. The mask I've made out of clay and fired it in an oven and then ground it down so it would be identical to a Korean oxygen mask. The gun sight really operates, and you can adjust the mill lead and it reflects on the windshield. All of the harnesses, the ejection seat, all of that are duplicated from Russian drawings and are identical to the original airplane. There is no glue in any of the canopy. The canopy, each glass is a separate pane, and it is bolted on with a scale number of bolts. And because they don't make panhead 80s, I had to make the screws in order for those to be exact.
You made them on a lathe?
I made them on a lathe and then with a hand fitting that I made. On the underneath of the airplane, we duplicated also the internal workings of the airplane so that if you look inside the flap wells and inside the wheel wells and inside the air brake system, you will find that that is all finished to scale, where I made the rivets and made the panels. There's even a hydraulic accumulator there that you can see that's brass. Yeah. And I turned that on my lathe. And if you look inside the flaps, both above and at the bottom, you can see that the stringers and ribbings, and those line up with the wheel well as well.
Got it. A lot of work there.
Oh, yeah, about 1,480 hours.
Did you punch a time clock to keep track of it?
No, I think my wife did. she thinks that I should be committed to an institution.
Without a doubt, this MiG was a sleeper. The craftsmanship is nothing short of incredible, and the engineering borders on awesome. Piloted by Tom Dodgen, a noted jet modeler pilot from Texas, the model is 1/6 scale with a 68-inch wingspan, weighs 21 pounds, and uses a Ram 750 for power. Top Gun 7th in team scale. Congratulations, guys. Great effort. Great effort. What can you possibly say about such an airplane as mundane as a Culver cadet? You might find it interesting that the pilot builder, Manny Sosa, modeled it after his own airplane. I guess that's something you could talk about. Manny's a retired Navy pilot. He used a set of Sid Morgan plans to reproduce this 1/4 scale 89-inch model powered by an OS 160 twin. Uses an Aerotech radio. And it's 19 pounds and flies very well. Very realistically, actually, and it's pretty quiet. Only if it had some machine guns or bombs or something, I don't know, but at least it's got retracts, so maybe we could call it the civilian guy's fighter, I don't know. Manny and the cadet, not to be confused with that rock star Manny and the cadets from years ago, finished in 15th place in the expert class, only 1.5 points out of placing in the top 10. Now, that was almost that was supposed to be knife edge on takeoff, but something happened. No, I'm just joking, guys. This is a lightly little airplane. You can see the ailerons moving back and forth like crazy. I think he just needs a little exponential in this airplane. He's got way too much control throw on this particular flight. In fact, I think on subsequent flights, that's exactly what they did. They decreased the sensitivity around neutral on those ailerons because in a crosswind, as I found out later in the day, that can be quite a hairy experience. Gear down for his slow flyby. Airplanes at Top Gun there's 5 maneuvers they have to do. A takeoff, of course, a fast flyby, a slow flyby, a traffic pattern, and a landing. And the fast and slow flybys are done to show the ability of the modeler to keep the airplane airborne in a dirty configuration. The traffic pattern is to show how accurately you can keep the airplane on a steady course because it's a rectangular pattern. And that's why we put it in there. Therefore, the figure 8 has become an option. Here's Manny's landing, by the way. Ugh. Now, here's some heavy metal. First, let's check out the detail. This is Nick Zeroli Jr.'s, of course, big Avenger. Let's check out the detail in this airplane. Entered in the designer class. Nicky designed it himself. It's a big airplane. When I say big, how about 108 inches big in wingspan and 45 pounds big? This, by the way, is a brand new model, similar to the one he had at Top Gun a couple of years ago, but it is not the same airplane. The older one had folding wings. This one does not. In fact, that's why this one weighs a little bit less weight. In fact, I think it's 8 pounds less weight because of not having the folding wing mechanisms. Nicky flies the airplane extremely well, very realistically. He came to Top Gun only with the 3 flights that you're provided to have on at the time. Of course, next year, new airplanes, as I said, 6 flights next year you must have on the airplane. But we don't have to go into that anymore. The contestants will worry about that. There's a torpedo drop right down the center. Here's a slow flyby. Tail hook out, flaps out, gear out, everything. Actually, that would be called an overshoot. That was not a slow flyby. And you can see the wind playing havoc with this big airplane as well, but again, I think it's because Nicky just doesn't have enough time on it. By next year, he will have over 100 flights in this airplane, of course, and he still did well with it, by the way, but of course, he'll be more of a threat next year. An Eagle 4.2 cubic inch motor powers it. Zinger 2410 prop, Aerotech radio. Oh, see, that's a terrible thing what the wind did there. Okay, what do we got here? Another F4 Phantom. By the way, Nick Zeroli Jr. with that Avenger placed second in the designer class. Forgot to tell you that, folks, but let's get back to this F4 from Tim Redelman. Another BBM airplane. He did the E version, which has the long nose with the camera up its snout. First Top Gun for Tim Redelman. Used the Ram turbine for power. Final score of 182.50, 182.50. put him in 10th place in the expert class, and that is remarkable for a guy that comes to Top Gun the first time. This real smooth runway of grass is not as smooth as it looks like. It's definitely flat, but it's still kind of bumpy, even though it's long and flat. It's a little bumpy, and these airplanes really take a beating. And this is a remarkable test for airplanes from a kit manufacturer's viewpoint at Top Gun. If these airplanes can survive 4 rounds at Top Gun, he knows, or they know, they've got this airplane dialed in. And Tim Riddleman did a great job of dialing this F4, going in the 10th place on his first time out. I am sure we'll see him in the top 5 in the very near future. And of course, he will come back automatically by placing in the top 10. Anybody finishing the top 10 at Top Gun is guaranteed to come back the following year. Another great model that has competed 3 times now at Top Gun is Sepp Uberlacher's Tempest. He has won high static, best engineering, and best craftsmanship in the past. For 2000, Top Gun 2000, he won the $200 cash award from Ray and Robbins Hobby Center for the best cockpit. So this airplane has won so many awards since the first time it was here, I can't tell you. Uses a Moki 1.8 for power. He finished 13th in designer class. Excellent craftsmanship. Now, I know a lot about this airplane. This airplane is an 80-inch, 32-pound P-47 from Aerotech, and it's my airplane. This is the airplane that I flew at Top Gun this year. Uses a Bryson 4.2 for power. I had a little trouble during the test flying stages, and things that were my fault, nobody else's fault. Did a little damage, repaired it, but unfortunately didn't have enough time to really practice like crazy. I think I only had about 9 flights on it. 91.42 static was poor, I think, again, because I may have rushed doing the repairs. I don't know. I wound up in 17th place in the expert class, but I love flying this airplane, and I'm going to build another one. I say another one because on the last round, I got behind it in a crosswind situation with the wings wobbling left to right, and I dorked it bad enough that I have to build another one. I do have some parts left, though, of the original, of this one. Great color scheme, shows up great in the air, the yellow stripes on the wing. And it's just a smooth flying airplane. This would have probably been the fast flyby here, I'm going to guess. Just one of the bugs you have. See, my Vortec bomb drop mechanisms failed to work, so I couldn't drop the tanks. Just one thing after another. By the way, Yellow Aircraft now produces those bomb drop mechanisms in 2 sizes. Give Yellow Aircraft a call, another sponsor of Top Gun, by the way. If you need bomb drop or tank drop mechanisms, Yellow Aircraft in Lexington, Massachusetts, I believe it is, give them a holler. Aerotech P-47, all composite kit, 80 inches, 32 pounds. That was a crummy landing on my part, wasn't it? Nice flap area. Full Fowler flaps, by the way, in this airplane. Another Mig-15. I think there were 3 of them this year. All 3, I think, first-time contestants. This one in check markings, built by Geraldo. Let's call it Geraldo Diaz, son of Jack Diaz, who, you remember Jack, you've seen him burning up the skies at Top Gun for many years with an F4. Well, this is his kid, his offspring, his son, Geraldo. He's a great pilot, by the way, and he's learning to become a better builder. And you say, why? Well, his flight average was 95 points. I mean, that is darn good. Static score, 88.9. That is average. So give this young man some building skills, and you're going to see him go from 11th place, like he did this year, into the top 5, or who knows what, because he is a fine, fine pilot. And by the way, how important is a good static score? Well, here, let's look at it this way. In this case here, if this MiG had scored just 5 more static points, putting him in the middle of the pack at 94, 95, he would have jumped from 11th place, there he is, to 4th place. And, you know, remember how pretty or how awesome the airplane looks to us. Still has nothing to do with the way it's scored. It may not have matched the documentation perfectly. The craftsmanship may have been a little bit off. The colors may have not have matched, whatever. So even though it looks great, if it didn't match the documentation perfectly, he would get a downgrade. Here's the kid's landing. Unbelievable. Super flying job. Future champion. Now this airplane belongs to one of the better pilots at Top Gun. It's a pilot that has been snake bit for the last 10 years that I know of somehow, and this year he was not. This is Brian O'Meara's airplane. Brian, a Ford dealer from Denver, Colorado. It's a real good looking Corsair, built from a set of Bob Holman plans. There he is, Brian O'Meara. 82 inches, this airplane. Brian Taylor was the designer, and of course Bob Holman sells Brian Taylor plans. Brian O'Meara uses an Airtronic stylus radio and uses an old Weber Bully, which is 2.2 cubic inches to fly it. His average flight was an astounding 93 points. That's average. His static score was a 91.25. Overall score, 184.21, just 7.5 points out of first place. He finished in 6th place. Finished 4 complete rounds, flew the airplane well, didn't lose any pieces off it, did a good job. This guy loves Warbirds. He knows how to fly them. I would say I put him up there with Greg Hahn as far as knowing how to fly a World War II airplane. It's his favorite. Here's a dead stick landing right down the runway. Beautiful. Good job, Brian. Now, here's another big airplane. This is an all-black night fighter version of the F-82 Twin Mustang. It's called an F-82G. The builder/pilot is Colonel Art Johnson, the oldest pilot at Top Gun, by the way, and this year's recipient of the Gray Eagle Award, sponsored by Model Airplane News. At 80 years young, the Colonel still flies pretty darn good. And how good? Well, his average flight was just under 93 points, and overall, he placed this 102-inch airplane in 8th place in the designer class. And had his static jumped from, let's say, into the 95 area, he would have been in 4th place. A pair of OS 108s provide the power, and Art frequently flies this baby on one engine just to show how docile it is. Along with that Gray Eagle Award, Art also won the Best Two-Stroke Performance trophy and a Moki 210 from Jim Gerard at Moki USA. Quite an achievement, I would say. You know, at any regional contest, any one of these airplanes at Top Gun could be the winner. This is kind of neat about Top Gun. You can get 50 or 60 or 70 winners together, and you're going to have one winner and one guy last. And yet, on their own, they're all wonderful flyers and builders. That's what's kind of cool about bringing them all together in one venue. For those of you who don't know by now, 3-time winner or 4-time winner?
4-time winner.
4-time winner. Were you with them all 4 times?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. 4-time winner, Terry Nitch. First time airplane.
Yeah, new airplane for this year, right? BBM kit.
Keep going. Tell us.
AMT Mercury engines.
2 of them.
2 of them, right. It's a twin. Functional drop tanks. The thing just looks so much better with the tanks on it. I did up a plug over the winter for the tanks, and Bob molded them for us. And
great.
They look nice and work nice. And
this, from what I can see here, this airplane is probably the most state-of-the-art aircraft in competition here today. In fact, possibly, I can't think of anything in the world that's more state-of-the-art. Can you?
No, not really. Not for the technology and everything that goes with this. And also in real life, you know, this thing isn't scheduled to go into military service until 2002. They're still in the prototyping stage and the demonstration stage, and they're just starting to sell them. So it's probably the most advanced fighter in the world also.
I'm imagining that's why there's only 3 color schemes for it. I mean,
So far, that's true.
not much of it in service.
Right.
What does this thing weigh, about 40?
No, 36, 37 pounds,
Right.
right in that range.
And it's a twin, it comes in a twin canopy version, or I mean a twin pilot version, or a twin crew version, and a single place also?
That's correct. The B model is the twin version, though.
And what is the difference in the front end of the airplane? Just a shorter nose, or the same nose, just less cockpit?
Shorter nose, a little less cockpit.
All BVM landing gear, all custom made?
Right, BVM, landing gear, wheels, and brakes.
All composite.
Right.
So very little sanding and glassing and very little of that kind of stuff.
Right, yeah. Just
a lot of fitting and cutting and
fitting, cutting, mudding it, that kind of thing, getting your seams and everything right, and then naturally all the detail work, the lights and the nose modifications and all that kind of stuff we did ourselves. But yeah, the kit comes pretty much all composite and pre-molded.
You're flying JR, obviously, probably a 10S.
10X.
10X. How many channels? 10?
10, using all 10.
What are they? I know the 4 flight functions we know.
Got 4 flight functions. The brakes take a channel. The drop tanks take a channel. There's a gyro on the rudder. I have a channel dedicated to that. And got naturally, I'm using 1 channel for the throttle both engines, but I'm using 2 channels on one on each ECU, so I can start and stop each engine simultaneously.
Very smart. Yeah, I never thought about that. That's right. When you do twin turbines, you got to sure.
Right.
Okay.
So it's using all 10.
Well, I saw it fly. I saw it fly yesterday. I saw it fly in competition. As always, you're right in there already. So
it's a good airplane.
It looks solid as a rock.
I think we're just disagreeing a little on how it thinks it should fly and how I think it should fly, but we're working on that.
Yeah, but
we'll
you won Top Gun 4 times. This is his first time out. You're going to win. Don't worry about that. Meaning you're going to win the argument.
Yeah, right. I understand.
Hopefully you'll win the event as well.
Well, we'll see.
Anyway,
anything top 5 would tickle me with a new airplane.
Both of you, good luck.
Thank you.
It's a great rendition, and Bob Violet should be proud that you're flying it. I'll tell you that. It is a super-looking airplane. Good luck.
Thanks.
You'd never believe that this guy only had 3 flights on this Rafale before coming to Top Gun, but it's true. And I think only the fact that he's an incredible pilot allows him to do that. Terry Nitsch, possibly the best scale jet pilot in the world, if not certainly the USA. He believes in massive doses of practice and sound building practices. He doesn't rush anything. If something is not ready, he doesn't go. But he only could get together 3 flights in this airplane, and as he told you, he was still getting familiar with it during each round, getting better and better each round. Watch the smoothness of this guy's maneuvers. That's the experience factor. The placement and the precision, and you'll see why Terry's average flight score was 96 plus points. And that's why he won first place for the 5th time in Expert. Bob Violet Models provided the kit, and they also awarded Terry the trophy for Best Jet Performance. The static score was a very good one as well, 95.58 points. Me, 3rd highest, only 2 were higher. He flies JR radio, by the way. In fact, he's sponsored by those folks. He's a BVM rep. He's an AMT rep. He was also, I think he also got the highest, yes he did, the highest total flight score award, which means of all your flights strung together, what was the total points? Futaba Radio put together an award for those, and he got the award from Futaba, even though he's sponsored by JR, for the highest total flight score. All in all, a successful week for Terry Nitsch with a brand new airplane, which by the end of the event had 7 flights on it. So he won first place in Expert, Best Jet, and Best Jet Performance. By the way, this is a twin-engined airplane. This is not a single-engine airplane. Now, look at that. How close to the center line do you want to get? There's Terry. His wife Sheila does the calling. Raphael coming back on his taxi back, right on the taxi line. Twin cockpit version of the Raphael. At this level, these are pieces of equipment, not toys. And here's some more heavy-duty equipment. I don't know if Bubba Spivey was responsible for this or Greg Hahn, but this was, without a doubt, one of the coolest things we've done at Top Gun. We used to do this years ago, and then we stopped. But this is cool. We get 8 or 10 guys on, of course, 10 different frequencies, all with World War II fighters. And we do a rally of just World War II stuff, chasing each other around in an oval pattern so we don't get in any trouble. And the crowd loves it. The spectators go nuts. The contestants love it. And you'll see the kind of airplanes we had up here. I mean, now these are not all competition airplanes. Like Greg Hahn's P-47 there was not in competition. That Tiger Cat before that was not in competition. This Corsair was not in competition. These are practice airplanes the guys brought with them to fly around and get used to the field and to perform in this rally with. I call it Greg Hahn and his Raiders. There's Greg Hahn's B-25. There is something about a bunch of heavy metal airplanes cavorting around the sky that it's just so darn cool. Here's that big Tiger Cat. I believe it was on Sunday in front of about 8,000 people on Sunday. There was a P-38 involved in this rally, or a beat up as Dave Platt calls it, and that P-47 with the checkerboard cowl was flying above and in front of the P-38, and the P-38 sort of slid under the P-47, and in an instant the propeller of the P-38 chewed the tail of the P-47 off. I believe the P-38 was actually higher is what it was, and as it came down, he chewed off the fin and rudder. That's what it was. And of course, the P-47 just went into the ground. The funny thing is the people thought it was incredible. They stood up and cheered. They want to know if we could do it again later. They don't know. People just don't know that it was an accident. It wasn't meant for their enjoyment. And poor Greg Hahn loaned his P-47 to a fellow flyer and is now out of an airplane. And a great-looking airplane to boot. But Bubba Spivey from Lanier, we turned over these halftime show duties to Bubba, and he makes sure that it goes off smoothly without a hitch. Everybody's ready on time, and he puts together some entertaining displays. This is just one of them that really cheered everybody up. Here's Mac Hodges' B-29. These kinds of things are perfect for spectator appeal. If you have the room and the venue, nothing pleases them more than a bunch of big airplanes with those growling sounds chasing each other around the sky. There's that P-47 that doesn't exist anymore. What a beautiful job, beautiful airplane. Once again, the reason for different takeoff and landing directions is that these are from different days filming. We don't usually take off to the left and then land to the right. It's once from Saturday, once from Sunday, or something of that nature. T6 is landing with smoke on. I don't know if that was by choice or not. Here comes a Tiger Cat again from some other day, but landing to the north. Left is to the north. Oh, there's our pole. There's our huge cellular pole that we had to fly around during practice, and we finally wound up changing the runway. You can see that the runway is off on an angle now. We had to change everything, but we put the pole behind us so that no one could run into that pole. We lost 2 airplanes at Top Gun. Ray Labonte's beautiful Panther and Pat McCurry's unbelievably high static in expert class ME-109. Both hit the pole in practice, knocking them guys out. Ray was able to go on with a secondary airplane in the expert class because he hadn't been static judged yet. Pat was out of the competition. Here goes Mac Hodges with a landing gear problem in this B-29, this 14-foot B-29. And I think you'll see a beautiful belly there. He did not even nick a prop, by the way. Turned the engines off just before he landed. There's the crowd, and listen to this. And look at this. If you want to know how stiff the team scale competition at Top Gun was, let's look at it this way. This is Jerry Caudle's BVM T-33 in Navy colors. He got a 94.67 static score, which is very competitive. And this pilot, which of course none other than Bob Wiley himself, who is probably more familiar with this design than anybody in the world, flew an average score of 94, so that's a 94.67 static and a 94 plus average, and they finished 4th. Now that's 188 points, which would win any contest in the world probably, any time, and at Top Gun it was 4th. It's an attractive model, stock kit, 75 inches of wingspan, weighs 20 pounds, powered by the Ram 750 turbine. And by the way, speaking of turbine, there were no ducted fan entries at this year's Top Gun. Every jet was a turbine-powered airplane. Now, I think that is probably an indication of things to come, I would imagine anyway. Here comes this landing from Bob Violet. Good-looking color scheme, white and red. There's Bob. Both guys sponsored by JR. Another JR flyer, this will be Ray Labonte. This is that backup airplane I was telling you about. Ray left Standish, Maine, as I told you, with 2 airplanes in the trailer, that beautiful CAI Panther and this trusty Harvard. Like I told you, he hit that darn cellular tower, and this is the airplane he wound up entering. Got a pretty good score, 94.58 static score. And he went out to fly the wings off this airplane, full 4 rounds, averaging 91 points. Now, he usually flies a little better, so I don't know what happened there. He may have had a gear problem or something, or a smoke problem. But even so, I think, yeah, it was a bulky landing gear. That's what it was. A bulky landing gear required him to make a couple of forced landings, which they still judge at Top Gun, but you lose the gear points, you see. So while you might get a perfect score for the forced landing or the emergency landing, you don't get a full score for landing gear had Ray chosen it as an option, and he did choose it as an option. All in all, he still finished in 5th place in expert. Good-looking airplane, awesome smoke system, by the way. The smoke system was one of the best at Top Gun. And he did some great gear-up landings. I mean, they were perfect landings, like I say, but unfortunately, no gear points. In fact, coming up, you'll see this airplane taking off, or after a touch and go or something, you're going to see that the gear actually collapses during the takeoff portion, and then what a recovery that Ray makes. You'll see that near the end of this segment. Here's that segment I was telling you about. You could disregard that last landing. Well, there he goes. Now, you saw him pitch over a little bit, and I don't know if he caught the prop. We don't know what happened, but watch here. He starts to pitch up. All of a sudden, the gear just gives way. Almost the strut broke off. In fact, that may have been it. The strut may have actually left the landing gear itself. Rake recovered well. Took off with 1 gear and forced into a gear-up landing. Very smooth. First of all, this is Mike Winter, and I want to talk about this for a minute, if I may. Are these not the coolest things?
They are absolutely super.
There's a company, if I might, Mr. Kopp. There's a company in California called Cool Pins, and we had our whole frequency board made up, and this guy went and made every pilot at Top Gun his own personalized frequency pin. So when Mike goes up to fly, Mike Winter here, he gives the frequency coordinator this pin, puts it on his channel, whatever it might be.
19.
19, and then we know that Mike Winter's on channel 19. Kind of cool. Really, really classy thing. Anyway.
Really neat system.
I know that you are a displaced Englishman that became a citizen sometime back during the Korean War when you signed up for the Air Force.
That's right.
I know you live across the state in the Tampa area.
I actually live in Sarasota, Florida.
Sarasota, Florida. Mm-hmm. And I know you prefer slow, homely airplanes.
Well, you may not believe this, but I am actually building a Focke-Wulf 190. So next year I may totally change my image. But you're right. So far I've had Sopwith pups.
We might have a rule that disallows this next year. Get the Focke-Wulf in here.
Well, okay. It's your contest. I know you're teasing.
That's right. This is a de Havilland.
It's a de Havilland Tiger Moth. It was designed by Jeffrey de Havilland in 1932, and this particular aircraft, the full-scale aircraft, came into being in 1933.
This was used at a flying school.
This was used at the de Havilland Flying School. It was used to train a lot of RAF pilots prior to World War II. They went directly from this into Spitfires and Hurricanes.
What who makes this kit?
This kit is a Bud Barclay's vintage models. It's a 20-year-old airplane. I built it in 1979, but when I realized the Focke-Wulf wasn't going to get finished 3 months ago, I stripped it totally down to the bare bones, and another commercial, I recovered it in Stitz Light. So this is the Stitz covering system.
This was yellow at one time?
No, this is the same color scheme.
Is it? Okay. What engine are you using?
I'm using a Zenoa G38 gasoline.
And what does it weigh?
It weighs about 25 pounds.
And what is the wingspan roughly?
The wingspan, it's a true quarter scale. It's 88 inches, and the radio is a Futaba, the 9 ZAP.
In the past, you have always flown light airplanes, the Sopwith Pup, I think it was. And,
yeah.
And unless I'm mistaken, I think we used you as an example, though. You did pretty well at Top Gun with those World War I airplanes.
I have flown here 3 times. The first year, I think I placed 18th. The second year I was here, I placed 7th. And last year, I placed 5th with a World War I airplane.
So when we say that Top Gun's rules are made so that anyone can compete with any airplane he chooses and can do well, you've done it. Charlie Nelson did it with a Wacko biplane. He won it.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
and Corvin Miller did it with a Swift, a civilian airplane, right? So there you go. Well, listen, we want to wish you good luck. This is a very, very good-looking airplane, I got to tell you, and I'm glad you've redone it. The Stitz covering is unbelievable.
Yeah, it really is.
Wow.
That paint just lays down.
I can see it.
It's
very,
fantastic.
very nice.
Yep.
So there you are, the de Havilland Tiger Moth.
Right, exactly.
From Bud Barclay?
Bud Barclay's vintage models. I haven't seen an ad for the kit in 10 years. I don't know if he's still in business.
You see one laying around. It's a beautiful airplane. And Mike Winter, good luck to you.
Thank you very much, Frank.
Mike has already told us about the big Moth, so there's not much more I can tell you. I can tell you that Mike Winter is one of several Floridians that's competed in Top Gun 2000, and he did quite well, finishing 16th place overall, just one point behind Manny Sosa's Cadet and a half a point in front of my P-47. 93.25 static score was certainly competitive, but again, the gremlins set in, and I don't know which ones, but it kept Mike's scores down below his usual average. Mike usually flies in the low 90s or right around 90, which would have been very competitive, as I said, but for some reason he didn't make it this year. Anyway, we're looking forward to an all-new entry from him this year. There's Mike on the right with George Jenkins calling for him. We're looking for a new entry from Mike for 2000, and we'll see what happens. I say see what happens because this airplane falls victim, I hate to use that word victim, of course, but to the 3-year rule. Once again, you only can bring an airplane to Top Gun 3 times. And the only way to bring it back would be to completely redo this airplane into, let's say, a yellow Moth, or put a closed canopy on it and change the color scheme, or turn it into a radial engine if there was such a thing, which there's not. But 3 times, that's it. And that brings new, fresh aircraft to this event. And we need that because, for many reasons, we don't like the pilots to get so comfortable with the invitation that, let me take out my airplane, dust it off, and go back down to Florida flying. But we want to keep the event for spectators and other pilots alike. We want to keep everyone interested, not just the spectators. It also keeps our judges sharp by looking at new airplanes on a consistently fresh level, you know. Nice looking airplane. A lot of character this airplane has. Uses the whip antenna, by the way. Notice the whip antenna. Now, this airplane is a quarter scale airplane. Its wingspan is 102 inches. It weighs 25 pounds. Uses a Moki 2.1 for power. And like almost every entry that used a glow engine at Top Gun, this engine ran perfectly on our sponsor's fuel. That's Wildcat fuel. So a couple of sponsors involved here. In fact, 3 of them. Wildcat Fuel, Moki USA, and of course the airplane's built by Dave Platt, one of our sponsors as well from Dave Platt Models. The airplane, it's called a Myles Magister. Dave calls it the Maggie. I guess you would call it, in fact, I'm sure you'd call it, it's a trainer. It's a British version of maybe the United States' PT-19. I don't think the PT-19 ever did spins like that, but possibly it did. But certainly the Maggie can do it. And as I said, this one was entered by the master himself, Mr. David Platt. Quite a change from the exotic reproductions we've seen in the past. We've seen twin-engine Grumman Mohawks. We've seen the Fairy Gannet. This one, a bread-and-butter 4-channel airplane, maybe 5-channel. I didn't know if it had flaps or not. But nevertheless, a great job. 4 complete rounds, no accidents. This airplane went on to the Nats, in fact. Took 11th in designer class. Big floater, big kite. Good-looking airplane on the ground, don't you think? Another great-looking airplane. This big yellow airplane here, this big Wacko. Let's put it this way. This big yellow bird belongs to Mike Barbie, and it probably has been on more magazine covers in the past 24 months than any airplane I can remember. I mean, I've got magazines from all over the world. France, England, Germany, Japan, Spain. This airplane is on everybody's cover for some reason. I don't know if it's the yellowness, the bigness, the prettiness, the classiness. I don't know what it is. Mike is a concrete contractor from Columbus, Ohio, and he built this airplane. It's 1/3 scale, by the way, from a BMA kit. That's BMA. Don't know where they're located out of, but BMA. It spans 110 inches, making it the 4th largest aircraft at Top Gun, by the way. He used that Stitz covering system, as did many others. In fact, the Stitz covering system was the most popular covering system for fabric airplanes at Top Gun. And he used the PPG automotive finish for the paint, and that was the most popular paint used at Top Gun, PPG, which, of course, is available at any paint store that handles body shop work. They have several lines of paint. Pick one that suits you best. Enamels, lacquers, acrylics, whatever. After 2 years of flying in every event imaginable, by the way, Mike has really got this Wacko dialed in. He uses a 3W 120cc engine. It performed flawlessly, sounds terrific, and again, the 3W was the gas engine of choice at Top Gun this year, just outscoring the second place is a Noah. He uses a Futaba radio, which, in that respect, Futaba was the #1 choice of radio at Top Gun, still. And by the way, even though JR and Airtronics have closed in on that statistic, Futaba is still the radio of choice overall at Top Gun. This Wacko earned 94.08 static points. Mike flew an average of 92.5, which placed him, well-deservedly, by the way, in 4th place in expert. And on top of the trophy and the cash awards from Zap and Model Airplane News, but that's who gave the cash, Zap and Model Airplane News, he won the RC Report cash and trophy for Best Biplane and the High Tech RCD Award for the Best Civilian Aircraft. So Mike went home with a few bucks in his pocket, which he probably didn't tell Barb about, and 3 trophies, which, of course, he showed everybody. That would be a slow flyby. A little bit of smoke coming out. Don't know if it's intentional or not. Just really a photogenic airplane, you know? I mean, I guess I could see why it was on so many magazine covers. It just shows up so well. Mike does a good job. It's a heavy airplane, too. Look how majestic it is landing. Look at this. Look at the... Oh, very nice. A little more forward speed would have been perfect. Good-looking airplane, great sound. Fabulous job. Good job, Mike.
Hello, welcome to Top Gun 2000 at the West Palm Beach Polo Club in West Palm Beach, Florida. I'm Bill Holland, the chief judge of this event. We're going to take a few minutes to kind of educate you about the role of the judges here at this event in static judging, which is going on at this very minute in this tent with the designer and expert, and just adjacent to this we have the team entries being judged in static. I'm also in charge of the flight judging operation, which is on Saturday and Sunday. Have approximately, we have 8 flight judges, and we have 6 static judges with 2 scribes, and with myself as chief judge overseeing all of these. My role is to ensure that the operation runs smoothly and on time, and that all the judging is scored appropriately, and ensure that each contestant gets all the help they need as far as questions, answers, clarifying rules, and basically doing what any person would do in my role, is putting out fires and keeping everybody on an even keel. Have a great team of judges, as we have for the last 11 years, and this is truly an outstanding event with the quality of people we have in these roles. Okay, just right here immediately in front of me is Bob Curry. Bob is the captain of the designer and expert static judging. Bob's in charge of this team, and his specific role for this event is to evaluate the accuracy of the outlines. The contestants provide documentation including 3 views, and Bob meticulously evaluates the entire outline of every component of each aircraft. The person in the middle is Dick Voigt. He is the scribe and basically he's the recorder for each of the judges. When they find a discrepancy, they document it on the score sheet, and basically to allow the contestant each downgrade he has received, he has a specific rationale for this. The judge just to his immediate right is Lee Henderson. Lee is the color and markings judge. In addition to the documentation packet, the contestant provides color chips or an artist rendition of the drawing to not only evaluate the color and accuracy of the color, but to also evaluate the placement of each marking. Okay, now in the center court area, which makes Top Gun very unique, we have a craftsmanship judge. This is Clark McComber. He is evaluating the aircraft at 0 feet for basically craftsmanship. He utilizes no documentation unlike the other 2 judges, and he basically gets right against the aircraft and looks for flaws in craftsmanship or rewarding outstanding craftsmanship. He evaluates how neatly things are covered, painted, looking for joints, hinges. Seeing the aircraft at 15 feet presents a different appearance when you're at 0 feet. So it basically puts a very critical eye on the aircraft. The last component of judging, besides the color and markings, accuracy of outline, and craftsmanship, is an area we added last year called realism. Each judge provides a score and of how the aircraft appears to be in a realistic fashion. Example, if you took the real aircraft, like this Tiger Moth right here, and shrunk it down on the table, does it look like the real airplane shrunken down? And that's how the judges will interpret a score and rate it on a scoring from 0 to 10. And we use quarter-point deductions for each squawk we find regarding the accuracy or the craftsmanship. So that's how static judging is done. We have years of experience of modeling, and these judges in this arena right here. The exact same criteria is on the other team, doing the team's entries, and that's where a builder builds the aircraft, and he has a separate pilot flying it. In this arena, we have designer and expert, where the designer scale is where the individual draws the plans himself, builds the aircraft himself, and flies it himself. Expert is where the person takes someone's other plans or a kit, builds the aircraft, and flies it himself. And that's pretty much sums up the criteria for the static judging.
Chief Judge Bill Holland will return later on with more judges and more inside Top Gun information. But right now, let's look at another magnificent Warbird, this one the Douglas Dauntless, built from Zeroli plans by Mr. Gas, Greg Hahn. As I mentioned before, Greg possibly is one of the best World War II or heavy metal aircraft pilots in the country today. Really tuned into how realistically they must look, I was going to say. And that's quite an art, quite a knack. And how to finish the airplane to look real as well, take a look at this one, you'll see. Chose an unusual color scheme, the off-white and the grayish blue. Either you like it or hate the color scheme. Different from the casual, or usual, I should say, dark blue Dauntlesses that you see. Greg, by the way, one of Horizon Hobby Products product managers. He has gone a long way to help promote Top Gun through involvement of several of their companies. Sponsors from Zenoa this year, JR, Hangar 9, all in part due to the influence of Mr. Greg Hahn. So we want to thank publicly those folks for participating with sponsor trophies and some merchandise for the pilots. Of course, Greg would not use anything but a JR radio, although I believe he was a JR radio user even before he went to work for those folks. In this case, the 10 channel. Uses the Zenoa twin cylinder gas engine, the newest one. And This is a good flying airplane, and he flies it, like I said, realistically, as you'll see throughout the flight pattern here. Slow gear retraction. Does a great dive bombing routine. Look at this. And if you could have watched the airplane as well, you would have seen the dive flaps on the top of the wing extend. That's two different dive bombing routines. One's a dive bombing and one's a flat bombing, by the way. There's a military roll. Like I said, watch the smoothness of every maneuver, and you'll see how it never looks like it's the SBD I'm talking about now, never looks like it's going too fast. No jerky movements, smooth, graceful movements, and that's what the judges are looking for. Any hopping around is wind related. I mean, it's not this man on the sticks. I mean, if you see a wing dipping, it's a little bit of rough wind up there. And it would be because we're bounded on both sides, boundaried, I should say, on both sides by a tree line. So as you start to cross over there, the wind gets a little buffeting. Greg went on to place second place in expert. I mean, he just missed knocking off Terry Netch by, I think it was 0.2 of a point. And he also received the Don Smith Plans Award. Don Smith sponsored an award for the best military model, which of course was voted on by all of the pilots at Top Gun, not by the judges. Just a great effort by Greg Hahn, and I think you'll see him in the winner's circle very, very soon, almost this year. The Twin sounds great, and it really powers this airplane well, by the way, for those of you looking for a new engine. So Noah Twin.
This is a 6-scale Mig-19S, all composite, scratch build, including landing gears. Have power. Power is two jet Kadahama P80s. Two engines. They self-start with the starter on front of the engine. If you're familiar with the P80s, plane weighs 35 pounds. And the turbines are adjusted accordingly to the weight ratio, and it's over 1,700 square inches wing area, so 35 pounds and 1,700 square inches it's pretty good inch to pound ratio. So it's all scratch built, like I mentioned in my drawings, and landing gears and brakes and ducting and radio JR, took out 10 channels, not major mixing necessary, try to keep it simple, and the fuselage splits in half for transportation.
The team of Kwasnowski and Jim Hiller, crashed, unfortunately, and did not complete the contest. It was a nice looking airplane, it's too bad. Hey, Palm Beach Polo's facility has some of the best yummy food you ever tasted. Fresh fruit cups, sausage and peppers, steak sandwiches, bacon and eggs in the morning, you name it. And I just want to let you know, if you've never been to Top Gun, what you're missing. Here's the vendor's tent. Huge air-conditioned vendor's tent. 60-some manufacturers or companies in there this year. Everything, plans, tools, model airplane-related products, jewelry, shirts, decals, parts, turbine engines, electronics. You can even renew your AMA membership at Top Gun, by the way. Top Gun truly has it all. In fact, the AMA booth has set up that you could change your AMA number to a 6 or 7 letter, like a license plate, vanity plate. You can change your number from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to Hot Shot or Bomber Guy or something. So look into that. Call the AMA and get yourself a custom AMA card call sign. Instead of your number, you can have letters. There's that big Concorde from AMT. Just a wonderful tent, perfectly laid out. Barbie there. All kinds of people coming in. Thousands of people coming in. There's Prop Wash Video's booth. I think Werner sold 2,000 tapes. And how about this airplane? This is a nasty-looking World War I airplane, isn't it? Wayne Fredericks built this very realistic Fokker, F-O-K-K-E-R, D8. Nickname is the Flying Razor. It's a monoplane, one wing way up on the top there. Almost a cantilever wing, in fact. In fact, I think it is cantilever. Both Wayne and his wife, Darlene, have been past Top Gun judges, taking some time off of competing now. Kind of funny to have them on the other side of the fence, so to speak. Built the airplane to 83 inches of wingspan, which is quarter scale. And he uses the Sato 180 four-stroke to fly at 16 pounds of weight. Flies through Top Radio, mixes his own fuel. In fact, he was the only guy at Top Gun mixing his own fuel. Everybody else, except 3, were using Wildcat fuel this year, as they have in the past. He painted this airplane with outdoor latex paint to prove it can be done, and it looks great. And whatever he did it well enough to finish 12th in designer. And of course, there are no mechanical options available to Wayne, meaning he has to fly every maneuver. Top Gun allows 3 mechanical options, like flaps, retracts, bomb drop, tank drop, torpedo drop, whatever. And this airplane has none available to it, so that's probably why he didn't do better than 12th there. Here's another Spitfire. This one from Al Kretz, a hobby shop owner from Peoria, Illinois. And for the second or third year, he has entered a yellow aircraft Spitfire Mark 14, so this might be the last year for this airplane. Using the crosswind runway for takeoff instead of the regular one. Like most 5th scale Spitfires, this one spans 88 inches, weighs 25 pounds. And instead of the gas engine, he uses the popular Moki 1.8 Glow monster motor. Like I said, Moki was the most widely used glow engine at Top Gun. There was not even anyone close in second place. Static score, 91-33. Mechanical problems, yes. 22nd place in expert. That's the best he could do this year. 22nd place. Great looking airplane. I wonder what we'll see from him next year. Louis Patton, Stennis French, and the Panther. And this is your second time at team scale at Top Gun?
Correct.
And this is your most competitive time?
Correct.
And this is the best builder you've had so far?
Correct.
And this is the best airplane you had so far?
And I'm very thankful for that.
Okay. Let him tell us a little bit about the airplane. Approximately the wingspan.
80 wingstan's 81 inches. You may go in depth. It's got an AMT engine in it, 20 pounds thrust. Plane weighs approximately 36 pounds full. Travels, got the capacity of 236 miles an hour, all fiberglass. Honeycomb unit.
It's a complete kit concept?
It's a complete kit concept.
Price approximately of a kit?
Probably around $6,500 just for the kit. Just for the kit.
Everything.
Yeah, that's everything. It's everything. Yeah.
How many hours to finish it, would you say?
We had about eight weeks.
8 weeks.
About 8 weeks.
Hours.
About 8 weeks, yeah. About 8 weeks, 80 hours.
How many flights on it now?
About 12 now.
Is it flying any different now than it did the first flight?
It sure does fly different now. We had a malfunction. We had an airline burn off the back retractable tail bumper. The canopy wouldn't close. And after you go past 150 miles an hour with a big hole up front, it's very exciting. So we got that fixed and it's fine now.
I've seen the other one fly with the folding wings. This seems to settle in a lot nicer than that one. Does this have folding wings also?
No, this has the manual fold, and we save anywhere from 3.5 to 4 pounds.
Okay. So what was your static score?
92.5.
Oh, so you're right in the middle of it. What's your flight score so far?
I had a 94 and a 92.5, I think, yesterday.
Oh, you're right in the middle of that too then. So these guys are in contention for winning team scale at this time. Of course, we don't know where in Werner's rendition of Top Gun 2000 this particular segment will be aired, but at this time, these guys are certainly in the top 3 or 4.
And we're very happy. We're having a ball, and we're very happy to be here.
That's it. The CAI team, the Panther, look for it. It's one of 2 that has been here this weekend. Hope to see you in the winner's circle, guy.
Thank you.
Besides being a great guy, Louis Patton is a fabulous pilot and a very dedicated modeler. His builder's name, by the way, is Stennis, not Dennis. Sorry about that, guys. Louis is another one of those pilots that shows a lot of discipline when he flies. You don't see a lot of jerky maneuvers. Everything is smooth and gentle. And he's known to be quite a pattern pilot, by the way. But he's a very experienced turbine jet pilot. When judges see smooth and stable maneuvers, they call that realistic flying. And usually, of course, reward that with good scores. Lewis, a retired school teacher, by the way, flew this team place entry to 6th place, his best finish in 3 tries at Top Gun. 185.21 final score. Now, again, he was 5 points ahead of first place. I mean, this team is going to get better and better. The closer they get to, I shouldn't say the closer, I should say the more experience they get with the field itself. That's all it takes, is getting used to this venue. Their scores have to go up. And I'm going to say that you'll see them next year with maybe an improved Panther or something else from CAI. And by the way, yes, this is the CAI Panther jet, Crow Aviation. They make this airplane in 2 versions, one with a folding wing, one without. This one has the non-folding wing, which makes it about 3 pounds lighter, by the way. And it's a good-looking airplane, a good performing airplane. In fact, Model Airplane News' coverage of Top Gun, featured this airplane on its cover in the landing mode with the flaps down. What a beautiful shot that was. Good landing, Lewis. Nice job. See you next year. This is Chip Hyde. Chip Hyde, a good friend, a dear friend. He's sponsored by Futaba. He's sponsored by Zap and Lanier. He puts on a show like you can't believe. Came into town. We flew him into town. Bubba Spivey handed him the transmitter to this airplane and let him put a couple of practice flights on it. And this is what we saw on Saturday in front of about 8,300 people right off the bat from Chip Hyde. This guy does things with airplanes that you would deem impossible. You would swear they're impossible. He flies remote piloted vehicles for a living. And let's just watch for a while, okay? Let me keep quiet. Let's just watch for a while. In some upcoming maneuvers, by the way, I want to keep you abreast of one thing I think is very important. Most pilots that fly this kind of routine use gyros. They use a gyro or one or more in the airplane at least for elevator and rudder. This airplane has no gyros. So what you're seeing here is a young man using his mind, his brain, his hands. That's it. There is no electronic help in any of these maneuvers. And that's important when you see what's coming up. This is not coming in for a landing, by the way. Check this out. No gyros. That is the ultimate command of power and dexterous. Just watch the control surfaces, the rudder, the elevator, just watch. Then he puts his hand up and turns the smoke system on. Walks up to it almost. He is in the path of the exhaust. Look. And he powers out of it. Lanier makes a great airplane, by the way, as you can see. These Lanier aircraft are lightweight, they are very, very strong, and they handle big power plants. I mean, they can handle the power the way they're built. That was a spin into an inverted flat spin for a minute, and just incredible flying here. Watch this now. Check this out. This is unbelievable. You wouldn't think a model aircraft could do this. This is about a 30-some% airplane. It's amazing how good Chip can be when it's somebody else's airplane. At least that's what Bubba says. You know, when you're not taking any chances, it's not yours. You can really ring it out. And boy, this kid does ring these airplanes out. This would be a rolling circle with 180 rolls in between. At about 10 feet of altitude, by the way, as you can see. A little higher there, obviously. That'll be the end of his maneuvers. Chop the prop, chop the engine, I mean. And his landing, Mr. Chip Hyde. Great job. And listen to the crowd's acknowledgement.
I'd like to introduce a brand new competitor and brand new airplane to Top Gun. This is Jeffrey Pike. And Jeffrey, where are you from?
Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Okay. And how long have you been flying RC?
Since 1978.
And scale?
Since 1980.
All right. Well, I don't know what the airplane is. Would you tell us a little bit about it?
Well, this is it's an Otter. It's a Canadian-built airplane, and actually the kit was a Canadian-built kit. It was made from 1952 to 1967. They built about 400 of them. They're used for the bush, flying in and out of mountainscape areas. This particular model has an OS 160 two-cylinder four-stroke in it. Has brakes, 4 flaps, the whole back of the wing drops out for STOL characteristics. It's covered with silk and dope and then painted with epoxy. And it's the best flying scale model I've ever had. It's actually a joy to fly.
Jeffrey, I guess a question that's on my mind, I've never seen one of these before. Is it scratch built?
No, it's not scratch built. It started as a Unionville kit made in Canada, but it was a sport model, had a lot of open features, open wing, open tail, open fuselage. So to get it to competition level, it took a lot of scratch building.
Well, best of luck with the weekend. From Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Mr. Jeffrey Pike.
The Otter, often mistaken for a beaver, by the way, spans 96 inches, which puts it at 1/7 scale. It's a pretty light airplane, this model, only 18 pounds, so the OS 160 manages it really easily. Jeff uses Airtronics radio gear, flies a Zinger 18.6, is that? No, it's a 16.8, sorry. 16.8 prop on the OS 160 engine. He did very well for his first Top Gun. He finished in 20th place in the expert class. You know, that's 2/3 of the way down. That's not bad for a guy first time. And I'm sure he got an education as to how to make a nicer airplane, a better airplane, how to fly it a little better. It's a learning curve, of course. But he had to go home pretty proud. Jeff Pike. Good job, Jeff. This MiG-Man Marine, named F-86, was entered by Rene Alvarez of Miami, Florida. It's a fiberglass kit powered by a Ram 750. Unfortunately, he only managed one flight and finished at 23rd at expert. Don't know what happened, but I was told a gear problem, but I did not confirm that with Rene. But a good-looking airplane, it would have been up there. Lots of detail, huh? The aluminum work, the doors, the humps, the bumps, the hatches. Oh, speaking of doors, humps, bumps, and hatches, how about this one? The only ever electric-powered model to compete at Top Gun. It's a quarter-scale Taylorcraft built by Bob Benjamin of Olympia, Washington. It's a long way to come, by the way. He drove all the way with this airplane in the back of his car. He did his own drawings. He entered designer class, and he took 5th place, placing higher than a lot of so-called big names, I want to tell you. And it's an electric-powered airplane with an unusual quiet sound. You know, it's a lot of power. And he finished 5th by putting together a good static score and consistently good flight scores. And this is not a small airplane. This airplane is 108 inches. He did not skimp on the detail, as you can see. It turns the electric motor is an Astro. Turns an 18.6 prop, and this airplane weighs 22 pounds. So again, it's not a small, light airplane. Look at the detail. Rib stitching, the fittings, the little lights. Bob Benjamin uses a Airtronics radio, and of course the ever-popular Stitz covering system. I don't think anybody at Top Gun with a fabric surfaced airplane used anything but Stitz. Unusual sound. Kind of cool. Bob flies it well. This airplane really handled, or I should say the pilot handled the wind situation, which was gusty at times. It wasn't crazy gusty, by the way, guys. Just a little breezy once in a while. We actually had pretty good wind down the runway a couple of days. But he handled it very, very well. And that's practice. That's all it is practice. He's flown this airplane probably over 100 times. And you can't come to Top Gun with 5-6 flights on the airplane unless you're Terry Nitch. Look at that landing. Tommy Polipink is the name, and World War I is his game. This guy lives, eats, dreams, drinks World War I airplanes. He has a part-time job up there at the Rhinebeck Aerodrome, upstate New York, where it's a World War I haven. An old runway stashed away in the middle of the woods with hangars and stuff. If you've never been to the Rhinebeck Aerodrome, you gotta go if you're ever in upstate New York, about 100 miles north of New York City. Anyway, of the 3 World War I aircraft at Top Gun this year, this being one, Tommy had this one, the 94-inch quarter-scale PFALZ D3. That's P-F-A-L-Z, pronounced PFALZ. German airplane, obviously. In the designer class, let's see here, 23 pounds. Lots of detail, of course. Flies with Airtronics radio, and he uses the Moki 210 glow engine, turning a Zinger 18.8 prop. Little light on the prop. He could have went to a 28, actually, and probably had a little nicer performance, but he did well. I can't knock him. I mean, the kid did really well. 4th place in designer class. Has Nick Zeroli calling for him. You can't ask for more than that. He got $200 cash and a special trophy for top static and designer, sponsored by Wayne Seward of Aerotech Models out of Minneapolis. What more could you want? And pretty colors to boot.
Nafrio from Punta Gorda, Florida. This year we're flying an S-39 Sikorsky amphibian, 1/4 scale, with 13-foot wingspan, 48 pounds, with a D&B 5.1 liter engine, approximately 7 horsepower. 9,000 rivets. Fuselage is constructed of foam, fiberglass, and plywood. And the wing and tail are standard balsa wood and spruce. And all the wires are steel wires, and all the rigging is chromoly steel with balsa wood fairing and fiberglass skin. Wheels retract. And I don't know if I mentioned the weight was 48 pounds.
Yeah, 48, pretty close.
That's about it, I guess.
Did you build it off plans, or did you actually draw the plans too?
I took Paul Matt's plans, exploded the plans to get the outline of the airplane, went to the museum at Hartford, Aero Museum, and took about 100 photos of the actual airplane, and then I drew in my own construction and all the placement of the rivets. And the rivets are scale placement also, and they're approximately the same number of rivets as there are in the real airplane.
Paul Donofrio has been to Top Gun before with a Wacko, but this is the first time with this airplane, and the first time with pilot Anthony Greco. And this team is going to become a very serious threat, especially with this airplane. 95 static points is a great static score and a great starting point. And of all things, a faulty ignition system on the B&D engine prevented them from completing more than the first round of competition. I mean, just as they're getting used to this field, a darn electronic gizmo goes bad and what knocks them out. And I'll tell you, it's called a Sikorsky, of course. This Sikorsky and Paul and Anthony, they didn't go home empty-handed. First of all, he won the Charlie Chambers Craftsmanship Award from the Zap Gang, which is $200 in a trophy. He won an OS 160 twin from OS for engineering excellence. He's going to be back. This airplane will be back as well. This is the team scale entry from Albert Araujo, the builder, and Ray Gonzalez, the pilot. It's a BVM Rafale powered by 2 Ram 750 turbines. These are the guys that own RA Microjets, or Ram, out of Miami, Florida. It's done in a 2-seater model like Terry Nitch's. And this airplane, like the other one, it just awed the spectators with that twin-engine, twin-turbine sound. It's just incredible. They did it very well, 94.75 static score, but had a mechanical problem with I don't know what. I think, you know, I'm not going to think. I don't recall what the mechanical problem was, but I think it was a fuel delivery problem. Anyway, they finished 10th place in team scale, and we look forward to seeing him again next year. But a good-looking airplane, great sounding airplane. Of course, Ray Gonzalez, one of the premier jet pilots in the country. These airplanes at this size have a lot of what we call presence, and one of the parts of a static score at Top Gun, by the way, is outline, of course, and color and markings and craftsmanship. But there are 10 points now set aside at the bottom of the scoring form for realism, and that is for the judges to determine how much like a real airplane does this airplane appear to be as opposed to like a toy airplane. And that's 1 to 10 points, and all 3 judges vote upon that independently. This airplane got an 8.5 out of 10 points. So looking at this airplane, you could almost dream or imagine it is a real airplane. A little bit of waggle there. High pitch up. That's how forgiving the airplane is, by the way. You see that approach? Not too many airplanes can pull that off and get away with it. Testimony to the BBM design, I would say. Here's Ray Gonzalez. Here is Mac Hodges' B-29 that takes off and drops the jet-powered X-1 rocket plane to simulate, I should say, the Chuck Yeager flight when he broke the sound barrier. There goes the X-1 gliding down, and in front of all the crowd, lights this rocket motor and goes up to about 400 feet of altitude in 3 seconds, and then glides in for a cute little landing as the B-29 goes off to the sky and does aerobatic maneuvers. Mac Hodges is a great guy and a hell of a pilot. The crowd loves to watch this 14-foot airplane do this kind of stuff, and of course the real one would not be doing this kind of stuff, but I mean, a rolling circle, inverted flight, you name it. And again, he is one of the sport's, truly one of the sport's nicest individuals, and does anything and everything he can do to promote Top Gun and really radio control aircraft in general. He is the sport's, one of the sport's biggest promoters. Teaches kids to fly. He runs a big hobby shop at home. Puts on events for free in his backyard. He has a runway in his backyard at the hobby shop. Kind of a cool place. But what a guy. And a great pilot, as you can see. And obviously, a little bit of an aeronautical engineer, I guess, the way he put this airplane together, because to be able to do this with a B-29 and have it hold together is astonishing. Here's his landing. Notice, by the way, that the number 4 engine, would that be, is out. So he actually made his approach and landing on 3 there, didn't he?
Vintage planes, vintage cars, vintage fashions, and more. They're all a part of the world-famous old Rhinebeck Aerodrome, less than 2 hours from New York City. So if you're looking for a unique location for your next trip, call us at 914-752-3200. Ask about special private weekday air shows for large groups and becoming a member of the Rhinebeck Aerodrome Museum. Come see why each season thousands of families discover the world-famous old Rhinebeck Aerodrome, America's original living museum of the sky. Want a great day of family fun? Come on out to the world-famous old Rhinebeck Aerodrome. See the thrills and spills of the golden age of aviation. You won't believe what flies before your eyes. See vintage cars, fashions, and more. Take a scenic open cockpit biplane ride. World War I fighters dogfight high in the sky. Cheer the hero, boo the villain. It's a blast for the whole family. Air shows every weekend from mid-June till mid-October in nearby Rhinebeck, New York. It's the greatest show off Earth. Call 914-752-3200. The old Rhinebeck Aerodrome, America's original living museum of the sky.